Hey guys, welcome back to the Blender tutorial series. Last time we left off we were setting up Blender ready so we could actually do the modeling work. This time I'll actually be getting into some Frankensteining, which is just putting parts of models together, and how to actually get that set up. So what we're going to be doing here, last time I think I said I was going to put Kyle's head onto Luke's body. We'll just work with some easy models such that we can actually do this. So let me quickly find some models. I'll use Kyle for the first part. I'm going to hit Alt Z. As with before, I'll have the keepers show any keys that I've pressed. So if I forget to mention anything, it'll show up here somewhere where the mouse is circling. But yeah. We'll be using Kyle to start with. Let's have a look. Let's just open his hierarchy. And we'll start off with the basics, which is just his head. Now, over here in this panel, you can see there's a couple of things underneath the... A couple of things underneath the head tab when you open it up here. The things with stars, they're tags. They're not necessary to copy over straight away, but you will need them with the model. We can come on to that later though. These parts, the cap, which is what shows if you cut the head off in game, that can be taken over. The eyes and mouth, you'll probably want to take them, and the face, because, well, it's the face. Something I'm going to do real quick before actually doing that. You'll see I've got these extra model roots here. I'm just going to hold shift and left click them so I can get them all selected. And I'm just going to delete their model roots. And then I'm going to press Z, then B, and I'm going to highlight all of that. And just get these little tags here as well. Hit X and delete. The reason I'm not going to use them is because I just don't want to. If I'm honest, they're the lower resolution models that you'd see in game if there's a lot of players in the game at once, sort of thing. They're not that needed. You can have them, you know, if you don't really have a good computer and you want them, I guess. But for all intents and purposes, I'm not going to bother with them. But yeah, as I was saying, all the stuff that come underneath the head tab, I'll probably be taking with it. And then you could work on another layer. You could just press a number and it'll just switch to that layer automatically. Or you can have a separate instance of Blender, which is what I'll be doing. You can work with layers if you want, it's up to you. I just do it this way because it's easier for me. Now, what I'll be doing with Cal's head, let's have a look. Let's put him on... Let's put him on. I've forgotten the alphabet all of a sudden. What's a good body to put Kyle's head onto? You know what, we'll just use Luke, because Luke's probably the easiest example to work with. Sorry, I've got a bit of a sore throat. So anyway, I'm going to do the same as I did before here. I'm just going to quickly remove the model roots. And then everything that was inside them, they'll have got enlarged again, so I'll just remove them as well. And here I've got Luke. So the actual model I'm going to be working with is Luke's, and I'll just stop using Kyle's once I've actually got his head. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to quickly select all of these. I'll select the tags as well. It's not that important, you could just use Luke's tags. They're not really any different, but I'll bring Kyle's over anyway because I'm lazy. And I don't want to parent them. And then, now that they're copied, I'm just going to delete the head from Luke. And everything that was parented to his head is now got up there, so I'll remove that. Now just hit Control V to copy that in. Whenever you do something like that, it'll always copy the skeleton as well. You can just delete the copied skeleton, that it's not important. And you'll notice it's also up here outside of the hierarchy. Now, to parent it, so it actually goes with the mesh, you want to have this tab highlighted under here, and then where this parent box is, I'm just going to type in torso_0, and that actually links it to the torso now. So you'll see that it's shrunk down and it's ready to, kind of ready, there's a bit of a gap, but it's essentially ready to be used with the model as soon as you've got the skin file and stuff sorted later. But everything that I copied was automatically parented because I copied them over at the same time, so it saves me doing that. Otherwise I'd have to parent them to the head. Oh dearie me. And so now we've essentially just got Kyle's head on Luke's body. Something I'm going to do real quick for if I want to mess around with the weights, make sure everything's right. I'm going to head over to the modifiers tab, and you'll notice, unlike everything else, like the arm, it's already got everything set up because that's how it was imported. Whenever you copy an existing Jedi Academy mesh piece across, it will lose its deformer modifier for the armature. So you just have to quickly go over to the modifier tab and just select skeleton root there for anything that would have had it. So as you can see, they all don't have it here. So I'm just going to quickly put them back on, and then what that essentially does is it allows you to actually see how they move in Blender, because before, if you didn't do that, let's say I forgot to add it for the head, and then I select the cranium bone, I try moving it around, the head won't move. So that's what you need to do that for. It's just so you can see how it animates. When you export the model GLM, it'll automatically link it anyway, but the moment you copy it over in Blender, it won't actually do that. So just a heads up, if you're wondering why, it's not. So as you can also see here, there is a bit of a gap with Kyle's head compared to Luke's body. That's mainly just because they've got different shapes. As you can see, the bottom vertices for Kyle's head, they don't really match up that well for the top ones here. There's a couple of different ways you can try and get around it. The way I would probably do it is to start off with, I'd go into the edit mode, which you do by just pressing tab, and it'll probably come up with everything automatically selected everywhere, and then I'll press A to unselect all. It also does the same, the opposite way if you just keep pressing it. I'll deselect them all, and then I'll press C and just make my way around using left click to select the bottom vertices like that. And then, well, this is just me. You could probably have your own ways, like mixing and merging stuff, but I'm lazy, and just for the purposes of this tutorial, I'm just going to do it the quick and easy way. So you could also get it into this mode, the wireframe mode, so you can try and see what you're doing a bit better as you're doing it. And then you'll notice, aside from the white part, which is essentially the original cap for if you cut Kyle's head off, it looks kind of normal. If I quickly hide the cap, it looks kind of normal. There's a tiny bit of a gap there, but it's not really that important for the purposes of this. Saying that, there are some models where you could probably throw some stuff about, change some things, and they'll fit nicely. I always like them ones. for obvious reasons, you know, because I don't have to do any extra work, but it's just something to bear in mind whilst Frankensteining. Not everything will always match up perfectly, so, you know, it's just something to watch out for. Now, the reason why I parented the head to the torso is mainly because of the way the hierarchy works in game if you want dismemberment to work properly. So, for dismemberment to work properly, you need to have 6, 7, I can't remember the exact number, but I'll probably remember after I list them. You'll want the head, torso, hips, left leg, left arm, right arm, and they're all the pieces that can actually be dismembered in game. So you'll need to make sure that you have all those pieces named as those pieces, for one, and you'll also need to make sure that they're linked up correctly. So the model always starts from the hips, that's how it'll always start. And then you've got, I've never messed with Luke's body, what's that extra part in the middle? Hips, legs, okay. They're not important that much for dismemberment, they're just linked to the original hips. You'll want, wherever you want the leg to cut off, that's where you'll, well, cut the leg in Blender, and then name it as such, as well as for the G2 property, which is Ghoul 2. You want to make sure it's got that name. And then if someone goes to cut off the legs, you know, that's where they'll cut off. But also, it's linked to the hips directly. Same for the right leg, because, you know, they are directly linked to them. And then you've got the torso linked to the hips as well. But they're the only things you'll really need linked. There's nothing else that's actually physically linked if you look. So there's not really any reason to actually do that there. Same for why I added the head to the torso, the arms to the torso, and then I've linked the hands to the arms. I don't know why I'm saying I did it. I didn't do it. LucasArts did it. I need to go to sleep at some point. I lost my train of thought. What was I saying? Oh yeah, that's the basic hierarchy for all the things that you'll want cut off. Now, on top of that, if you've got extra pieces, say you've got, I don't know, let's say you've got a cape coming from the shoulders. Obviously you don't want the cape to come off with the hips if the model gets cut in half. So you could link the cape to the torso. If the cape has got, I don't know, a hood, and so you want it to come off with the head, you just link it to the head. And you just follow that same sort of premise. So, say if I parented the right hand to the left hand, if you cut off the left arm would come off, but so would the right hand. Whatever's parented to it will come off with it, basically. Now let's show some other parts, just for an example. Let's get Kyle's left leg and just copy that. And paste that over. Now what I want to do is I want to parent that to the hips. And you'll see it's currently merging in with Luke's own leg. Let me just quickly look for that and hide his left leg. And hide the skeleton as well, because you can barely see that. But as you can see, that's how you'd get one of the legs across. If you're replacing something like the leg, but you want, I don't know, an option to keep the old leg, instead of deleting it, you could simply, I've lost where I am, it's here. You could simply, instead of having this, replace it and just be called L leg. You could have it as L leg B, and then parent that to the actual left leg, such that you haven't got two different left legs, basically. and then for this, you'll notice whenever you copy something with the same name as well, it'll add a .001 afterwards. You can just remove that, and you'll want to change that name as well, just so it's easier for you to find. But the G2 property, that's important that you do change the name. If you've got two different meshes with the same GUL2 property, there'll be a problem when trying to load the model. I can't remember what the exact error is, but it's obvious why there's an error, because it's trying to tell you, you know, there's two meshes that are the same, but they're not. But then you could go, once you've got this extra variation for the leg, you could add that to the skin file, basically, such that you've got an option to have a different leg. Let's have a look. And then yeah, you've got stuff like the hands as well. I don't think they have even relatively the same shaped hands. They might do. Let me copy Cal's left hand across and just quickly remove the skeleton again. And I'm going to quickly parent that to the left arm. And then where's the actual left hand? If I just hide that. Yeah, I guess it fits actually. I guess that works. What I can do with this one is I can parent that to this left hand. It doesn't really matter if I parent it to the hand or the arm at this point, because the left arm is the last point it'll get cut off there. I don't think it actually cuts the hand off separately. I could be wrong, there could be a mod for it, but anyway, and then I'd go through the same process, so I'd call that L hand B in the GUL2 properties, and I'd just rename these so I know what I'm looking for and whatnot. And that's really it for Frankensteining, to be fair. There isn't really that much more to it. Also, I forgot to add these for these parts, such that I can actually see them animate. Something that's good to do, that a lot of people don't do, which I've just found a good example for here. Let's see if it does the same for... I'm doing the wrong part. See if it does the same for this. No. But something I just found a good example for, whenever you're using two different things, two different models, and putting them together, you'll want to check the weights to make sure everything's, you know, as it should be. I don't know what the best way of saying it is. Let's give an example. If you hit Control Tab, you can enter weight painting mode, so you can see the different weight values for when you're selecting different parts of the mesh. So this is telling the model basically how much to move something when you move that boom, how much to move that mesh piece. But if you look at that, and then I get this in weight paint mode, and then I'll look at that, you'll see the bottom vertices for the leg, it's mostly yellow, which is probably about 0.7, 0.8, except for that one that's red. But if I've got this part up, you can see the vertices that connect up are all red, so they're all a different weight value. So that's why it's causing the leg to move at a different rate that the actual leg is. The boot to the leg, that's what I meant. The boot's moving at a different rate to the leg. And that's essentially why. So if you're doing stuff like that, you'll want to just use your little brush tools up here, where you can do another method, but I'll show you that one later. You can use your little brush up here, and so I just changed that to 0.7. And then what I want to do is I want to paint the top one as yellow, such that they match up with the bottom of the leg. And then I'll also double check that the bottom of the leg has the same values and it's not just like slightly different. So I'll paint over these as well To be fair, yeah, I was wrong, it's more of a greeny colour. And hopefully that should start to make it look more normal, but it didn't. Why didn't it? Oh. Right. That's another thing. This one doesn't have any weights for this one at all, but if I check on this one, it actually does, and it's also here. One way I could quickly fix that, to be fair, if I just change this to 0 up here, and then quickly go over bottom ones, and just change them to 0. These are the connecting vertices that I'm changing only. No point in changing the rest of them because there's not really any point. And then if I go back here, the boot's actually moving more along with it compared to what it was before. And there's not really any gaps. It's different for everything that you weigh in, really, but that's the kind of basic premise to it and what you're going to want to look out for whilst you're doing this. Now, with that out of the way, what you want to do next is, or what I want to do next, is I want to actually make a folder for this. So, where did that just go? Why did that do that? I can't open the folder. I have no idea why I did that. Anyway, you'll have set this up in the last video at the end. If you haven't, just quickly pop back over and see how it's done. But I'm just going to make a folder in here for the actual player name, and I'll call it Kook, because that's Kyle and Luke, I guess. You don't need the upper or lowercase, it doesn't really matter that much. I'll just change it to lowercase. But now I've got a folder called Kook. I'm going to go back to Blender. I'm going to go up here to File and Export. And then I'm going to hit model.glm. I'm going to quickly navigate to where I've just created that folder, which was Kook, and that's here. And I'm just going to export the model. And now you can see there's a model.glm file in this folder. Obviously that on its own isn't going to really do anything, because you're going to open it up and you're just going to see that in mod view. So now what we need to do is I'm going to quickly head over to Luke's folder, and I'm just going to steal his model default.skin file. I'm going to put that into Kook. Now you can open this with Notepad. If you just right click open with and then select Notepad for default, if you want to open it as default with that. But I'm just going to double click it because I already got it. And inside you can see on the left hand side there's a list of all the different mesh pieces that are, you know, in Blender. And then there'll be a comma and then a directory to where it wants to find that texture to put over that mesh piece. So hips, comma, models, players, Luke, boots, hips.tga. That's what the name of the texture is. For example, if I go back to Luke's folder, there's a boots, hips image file. That's what it's telling the game to load, or mod view, for that particular thing. So what we need to do with this new skin file, because if we try and use it, it won't load everything correctly. Because of the new pieces we've added in a new left leg and called it left leg B. So I'm just going to add a new line to that and put B for the actual mesh piece here. We added a new left hand, so I'm going to quickly add that line. And then what I want to quickly do is I want to make sure I've got all the correct names for the head. So the base head is just called head. I imagine it's the same for Luke. I'll be checking the Goal2 properties because they're what are listed in the skin file, not anything with the _0, anything like that. So let's have a look. He's got head face, or head underscore face, head underscore eyes, and then the cap as well. So we've got head, cap, torso off, that's the same. head, eyes, mouth. That's the same. Yeah, he's got mouth there. And head underscore face, that's the same there. So that's good. Now, we're not quite finished with the skin file just yet. One thing we do need to do as well is I need to head over to Kyle's folder. Wherever it is. Right underneath it. What am I doing? I want his model default, and I want to just double check what it's loading for what. So for his left leg, it's loading Kyle underscore legs. So I'll just quickly head here, and the leg that we just imported in and called L leg B, we're going to change this to just Kyle underscore legs. And it'll actually use his Kyle legs texture there. And then for his hand, he uses basic underscore hand. So let's I've lost it. It's already called basic underscore hand apparently. But because they're the same texture, what I'm going to do is I'm going to have it called basic underscore hand B. And then when I'm actually getting the textures ready, it'll actually load two different hands. And what was it? The head. Let's see. So for Kyle's head, they're all using Kyle underscore. No, it's Kyle underscore head, Kyle underscore face, and mouth underscore eyes. Okay. So I believe Luke's probably got the same mouth eyes thing, but just to be sure, what we'll do is quickly change this to Kyle underscore head, Kyle underscore face, and I'll double check what Luke's got. It could be different, but I highly doubt it. Yeah, no, it's the same. It doesn't really matter then. But yeah, that's the basic premise for this. What I'm going to quickly do here is I'm going to use the replace tool underneath the edit tab. And just to double check and make sure that I'm hitting the right thing, what I've basically done here is I've put a slash before and after. The reason being, in case there's any texture files that have got the word Luke in it, I don't want it to replace it with Kyle. I only want to replace these parts here. That is basically the folder where it's loading the textures from. That's the only part I want to change, and because they've got forward slashes before and behind, that's why I'm putting them here on both parts. And then I'll just hit replace all. And that's the quickest way to make it load from a different folder now. And then one thing I'll quickly do is, because I don't want two legs and two hands loading on top of each other, for the L leg, which is the original leg, I'm going to delete the path and I'm just going to put start off after the comma, and I'll do the same for the hand. And then I'm just going to hit save. And now I don't need that anymore. So, real quick, I'm going to quickly grab all of these. I imagine he needs a good portion of them, except for the head. Actually, what am I doing? He's going to need a good portion of them. Legs, mouth, eyes, torso. That should be everything I need from there. So I'll just Control C. Go over to Cook, Control V. And then I'm going to quickly go to Kyle. One thing I did was I renamed one of the texture files in the skin file. So I'm going to call this basic hand B, which is what I called it in there. Going to get that. And the head parts, I don't need the mouth eyes because they're the same as Luke's. I'm going to copy them, put them into the Kook folder, and then when I open this in mod view, when I go back and get that missing texture that I forgot about, and then open it in mod view, you'll see the skin file is telling the game everything that it needs to load, and well, it's essentially working right now. And then press play to see how the animations are going. And this is essentially Luke with Kyle's head, his arm, and one of his boots. You know, a default Frankenstein, a nice example, I'd like to think. And that's really the basics for Frankensteining. I suppose I could go over, you know, making icons for it real quick. Let's have a look. It's essentially the same principle as having the what you would call it, the skin file. As you'll see, it's called model underscore default. Then you've got icon underscore default. Something I could do real quick, if I just copy this and also this, and I'll have this model called model underscore black. I'd have the icon called icon underscore black, and basically the way you name them is such that when you load a specific skin file in game, the icon on the leaderboard is also what will show, and it's also what you'll see in the profile select screen, so you know what you're selecting, and then you can just edit the icons in Photoshop or whatever you want, so it shows whatever you want it to show. Now, real quick as well, if I go into model underscore black, the reason this is cool is because if I just quickly copy what's there for the right leg and paste that over off, and then change L leg B to start off, and do the same sort of thing with the hands. So copy that, put that over this, change this to off, and just save this new skin file. If I open this back up in mod view, you'll see if I extend this and go to the skins available, you'll notice I've got default, which is what will always load by default in game or mod view or Blender, whatever you're trying to load it in. But then I've also got black, which changes the boot back to that one and the hand back to that one, such that it matches up as it was before, which is why I left them mesh pieces in Blender, such that, you know, I've got a couple more options if I wanted to go down that route for whatever reason. And yeah, now I think that's everything that I wanted to cover for Frankensteining. So, to be completely honest, the next video is going to be more a bit more challenging, because it's going to be going over porting models for Jedi Academy. The main difference really is the model that you've got, it will either not have the same T-pose that's already set up with this, or it just won't have any weights with it. Now, having a different skeleton is fine, as long as it comes with weights, so you can actually port any existing weights over, but if it doesn't have them, it means you're going to be needing to use the weight painting mode a lot to get it fully ported over. I don't know if I'll be going through that, the actual weighting from scratch. I'll probably just be using a model that's got existing weights and just showing you how to port them over. But saying that, not long after I'm done with these tutorials, I'll most likely be doing a live session where people can sit in with me, and I'll screen share to you, so you can ask questions, you can get any help with anything you're unsure about, and yeah, I hope you're enjoying these videos so far, or they're actually useful to you. I shall leave this as is. If I think of anything, I'll probably make another edit like I did with the first video. But otherwise, thanks for watching, and I shall catch you later.